Ciao a tutti, sono Valentina, coordinatrice editoriale di Speak Up e vi diamo il benvenuto al terzo episodio di Quarantine Talks, un'edizione speciale, puntata speciale, chiamiamola così, sull'Australia. L'avevamo già fatta giovedì scorso, però purtroppo Instagram non ci ha permesso di registrarla e quindi facciamo un piccolo riassunto, ecco, anche delle domande molto interessanti che ci avevate fatto, perché avevate partecipato con molto interesse. E quindi ecco, vi do il benvenuto e do il benvenuto anche al nostro ospite Paolo. Paolo.
Hi, Valentina.
Hi, Paolo. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Yeah. So Paolo is Italian. Uh, he
Yeah.
was our first guest in Quarantine Talks. And uh, Paolo lived in Australia for a year, like 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yes.
Almost, yeah. So Paolo, I got a few questions for you.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you get your visa to go to Australia, to live
Yeah.
there?
So, well, first of all, thank you for having me back for the third time. It's supposed to be the second time, but
Yeah.
technical problems had us meet again. Yeah, as you mentioned, I lived in Australia 10 years ago, September 2009 until later in 2010. Um, I had the opportunity to visit Australia and live there for a year because I applied to what's called a working holiday visa. And that's a special type of visa that the Australian government offers to citizens of many countries around the world. They have a special agreement with some countries. And it's a visa that it's dedicated to people with age between 18 to 30. So if you are in that age range, then you can apply to the visa, and it gives you the opportunity to live and work in Australia for a year, just as a permanent resident. It's only for 12 months, and the only limitation that it has is that you are only allowed to work for the same company for 6 months maximum. So it's thought that way probably because, as the name indicates, it's a working holiday visa, so it's supposed to give you the opportunity to travel around Australia. So they try to avoid people staying for the full year in the same part of Australia. Yeah, and it used to be a relatively inexpensive option back in the days 10 years ago. I think it was around 150 Australian dollars. I've checked recently, and I think it's now around 450 Australian dollars, which I believe it's around 250, 300 euros. It's not as cheap as it was 10 years ago, but I think it still is an inexpensive opportunity. It's also fairly quick. I think on the website, you can apply online, of course, and there's no particular paperwork that you have to submit. It's just, you fill out a form with your personal details. They don't ask for much, really. And then I think they say that it might take them up to 2 to 3 weeks to process your visa. My personal experience was that once I submitted it, I got a reply within 24 hours. So literally less than 24 hours later, I received an email confirmation with, that I have been granted the visa. So it's usually very easy, very quick. And then once you get the visa, you have 12 months to travel to Australia. So if you get it today, you have the next 12 months to decide when you want to start your 12-month stay in Australia. And then once you get there, from the date you get in, then you're allowed to stay for 12 months.
Cool. So you got there and then you started looking for a job, or you did it before in your country, home
I didn't look too much before because I was still working here in Spain, and also because I wanted to take a few weeks to travel, or to get to know the city, because when I went to Australia, it was actually my very first time visiting Australia. So and I lived in Sydney. I don't know if we've mentioned this already,
Oh,
but
yeah.
so my intention was to get there, get to know the city a little bit, and then start looking for a job. So I actually started looking for a job after arriving, like after a few weeks after
Okay.
getting there.
Was it easy to find a flat?
So I was extremely lucky because a friend of mine moved to Australia before I did, so she found the apartment for the two of us. It was, but then I had to look for another apartment. It was fairly easy, yeah, not that difficult. And you know, there was like a bunch of different websites where you could look for apartments. Um, the way that they rent apartments in Australia, or at least in Sydney, is very similar to what they do in London. Like usually you pay per week or bi-weekly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fairly easy to find places. And that
Mm-hmm.
also because of this visa, there's a lot of people, especially in Sydney, because Sydney obviously is the largest city. It's the city that attracts more people. Although
Yeah.
the rest of Australia is beautiful as well. But so it's very easy to find big houses with that are shared by different people coming and going, you know, pretty frequently. People, you know, coming from Europe, from America, from other countries that only stay for a few months. So yeah, so there's
Yeah.
a lot of offer.
Great. How was living in Sydney? Did you like it? Did you enjoy
Oh,
the
okay.
experience?
Yes. Well, first of all, when I moved to Australia, it was September, so it was the end of summer here. And as you know, the seasons in Australia are backwards. You know, they're the opposite of what we have here. So when it's summer here, it's winter down there. So when I got there, it was instead of end of summer, it was beginning of spring. So,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I was going towards another summer. So obviously that helped a lot. The weather is usually very nice, even in winter time. I think you could compare it a little bit to the weather in Barcelona, even Rome, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
temperature. Winters are very mild, although I did not experience a full winter. But yeah, when I, when I got there, I super enjoyed it because people in Australia. So I have to say that Australians are very laid back, very easygoing. They do love sports and outdoor activities a lot. They like to be outside all the time as much as possible. So there, you know, there's a lot of people running around. And the city, Sydney, although as I said, it's the largest city in Australia, so you could compare it like I know, a New York of Australia. But obviously, it's completely different because the standards are completely different. The city, it has a downtown with the high-rising buildings, but then there's a lot of um, quieter neighborhoods. There's a lot of parks. There's a lot of beaches, of course. So you don't really get the feeling of being in a big city. A lot of traffic jams. They do have traffic jams as well, of course, but it's different
Mm-hmm.
because you can easily walk away from the city center and be on by the ocean, basically. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you have the opportunity to travel a little bit?
Yes, obviously it was one of my main goals. Of course, I was going to work, but the idea was to travel around a little bit. So I did travel quite a lot. I visited other famous cities like Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, and then Cairns up in the north. And they're all very different. So Sydney and Melbourne, they're similar in a way that they're both big cities, but the feeling is different. One very peculiar thing about Melbourne is that they say that Melbourne has the four seasons in one day, and it's
Oh,
true.
wow.
You wake up in the morning and it's sunny, and then all of a sudden it starts raining and the temperatures drop like crazy, and then it's cold, and then it's really weird. So there's this saying about Melbourne that it has 4 week seasons in the same day, and yeah, I can vouch for that. But it's a beautiful city.
Yeah. And what about Brisbane?
So
How is it?
Brisbane is also, I think it would probably be the third largest city in Australia. So Sydney probably the largest one, then Melbourne, and then Brisbane. But I mean, if you go to Sydney, as I said, it's very cosmopolitan. There's a lot of people coming from all over the world, and it's probably the main destination when people visit Australia. So it kind of loses a little bit the Australian reality. Whereas in Brisbane, you can actually feel, the way people dress and talk. Even the accent in Brisbane is definitely, you could hear a stronger Australian accent. I mean, you can hear it in Sydney as well, but Sydney, because it receives so many people from around the world, and there's, the accent changed so much. So, but Brisbane, yeah, I remember in Brisbane walking down the street and seeing people walking barefoot in the street, or iguanas crossing the roads. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Actually, how is nature in Australia? I know there are a lot of animals, wild animals, huge animals.
So one thing I wanted to mention is that Australia is home to the 10 deadliest animals on Earth. So they have, the sharks, but I don't know if you know, but they also have seawater crocodiles. So it's huge crocodiles that live in the sea, and they actually eat sharks. So you can imagine how nasty they can be. And then obviously, I mean, but if they're big or if they're in the ocean, at least they're out there. But I think the most scaring part is that there are very tiny insects like spiders that are so deadly. There is one specifically that's called redback spider. It's called redback because it's like a little, like a 1 centimeter, even smaller, black spider, and it has a red spot on the back. That's why it's called redback. And you can find it anywhere. As a matter of fact, the first week I was in Sydney, I was having a barbecue by the pool at some friend's house, and we had a special guest by the pool. So yeah, my friend's dad, he just picked it up and threw it away. But he was like, yeah, of course, we know it's poisonous. But yeah, it's scary if you think about it, because if you get bitten by it, I think you have like 30-40 minutes to get to the hospital and get the antidote. And that's not even the deadliest spider that they have. There's actually another one that's called the funnel web spider, because the web it makes, it's shaped as a funnel. So funnel web spider, and that's, I think, even worse than the redback. So,
but there is also a huge diversity of plants and
and
flowers and
I mean, it's beautiful. As I said, the city, Sydney is very, very green. There's a lot of palm trees, and if you go to the botanical garden in Sydney, which is beautiful, it's very big, and it's amazing to see all the different trees and plants. But then it's also funny, because when you walk by it, you start hearing this weird noise, and then you look up to the trees and you see all these black balls hanging from the trees, and at first you don't recognize them, but then you do realize that it's huge bats, like very big bats. That's another thing that's interesting. And then they have kangaroos, of course, but you don't see kangaroos in the city. You have to go outside the city to parks. If you go to rural areas, then obviously you might come across some kangaroos. One thing that people might not know, or maybe they do, but kangaroo is actually, it's a meat that people eat very frequently in Australia. And funnily enough, it's the cheapest meat that you can find at the supermarket. It's even cheaper than chicken. Usually over here, chicken tends to be the cheapest meat, whereas in Australia, it's a kangaroo meat. And
how is it?
Is it good? But it's got a gaming flavor taste, like it's a little bit strong, but when you barbecue it with some sauce, it's good actually. And it's also very lean. It doesn't have any fat at all, so it's got a lot of protein. So
I should try it one day. Tell us a little bit about the accent, the Australian accent.
So obviously the Australian accent is very peculiar. It's, you could say that it's closer to the British accent than it is to the American accent, but it's an accent on its own. So it's interesting. I'm sorry, I have lost my accent, my Australian accent, so I won't be able to perform any.
It's okay.
Very well, but So if you go to more rural areas, you could have a hard time sometimes understanding them, especially, you know, if it's smaller towns. Um, but apart from the accent, Australians obviously, like all languages, they also have their own expressions and some words that are only used in Australia.
Mhm.
They tend to shorten words. For example, like brekkie is short for breakfast. So
Okay.
it's brekkie. Um, the barbie is the barbecue. So they don't say barbecue, they do barbie. Arvo, it means afternoon, and that's a word that I only heard in Australia. I never heard that before. Um, yeah, a roo, of course. Kangaroo, they don't say kangaroos, they say roo.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah,
So it's kind of different from the
it is different.
standard
Yeah, and they do
British
have
or
a
American.
lot of, yes, and they do have a lot of different expressions, of course.
Yeah. And what about Aboriginal words? Are they
Words?
some, yeah,
No,
words?
not really.
No.
Unfortunately, when the white men arrived to Australia, they kind of stole everything from the Aboriginal people, and there was not a real uh, connection. So
Yeah.
um, I can't think of any words that are usually used commonly in the daily language, but obviously there's a lot of Aboriginal names when it comes to streets, neighborhoods. Like
Mm-hmm.
I lived in a neighborhood in Sydney that was called Woolloomooloo, which is spelled WOOLLLLO. And Woolloomooloo.
Funny, funny
Yeah,
name.
and
Yeah.
have funny names, yes.
Yeah. Cool. And you said Aussie people are very laid back and
Mhm.
relaxed
Yeah.
and sporty people also, but are they more similar to Asian or to European people,
No,
culture-wise?
yeah, no, definitely closer to Westerners or European people. Of course, there is a huge Asian community, and especially Chinese, but they tend to be very separate. So, yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
the average Australian is, yeah, more European.
Yeah. And yeah, to sum up a little bit,
Yeah.
would you recommend the experience in Australia and why?
Yes, 100%. It's a beautiful country. Like in term, if you like plants, you know, Mother Nature, you can see it, a lot of her there, down there. So it's a beautiful country to visit. It's very interesting, mm, you know, all the weird animals or the weird plants that they have. If you think about it, like koalas and kangaroos and possums, those animals that are only living in Australia, so we don't get them anywhere else. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. As I said, people are laid back, so they make you feel welcome. The food is really good. Australia food is very good. Obviously, the food in Australia is, there's a lot of Chinese and Japanese, of course, but then because of the weather, the products are actually very good. So they have very good wines, they have very good cheese. So yeah, it's really good. Um, so I
Cool.
guess it's like a complete experience.
Yeah. Do you miss living there?
A little bit, yes. I may say obviously I have friends, and there's so many parts of Australia that I'd like to discover, and hopefully I can go back soon. But I think one of the things I didn't like was how far it is.
Yeah. Mm.
So, and obviously, you know, I have family and friends all over Europe, so you know, it takes at least 24 hours to go to Australia.
Mm.
And it's, of course, it's expensive, but more than expensive, it's a very long way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Well, Paolo, thank you very much again for
Yeah,
your
of course.
time
You're welcome.
and for sharing your experience with us. And hopefully see you soon.
Of course. Bye, Valentina.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Bye. Grazie a tutti per averci seguito. Volevamo fare ecco, un piccolo riassunto delle domande che anche voi ci avevate mandato sull'Australia. Spero che vi sia piaciuto questo video e ci vediamo la prossima volta. See you next time. Bye.